Welcome, dear dreamers, to the Sleepy Folks channel. Here, amidst the stars and moonlit dreams, we invite you to embark on a journey to unwind, relax, and embrace the beauty of peaceful slumber, whether you seek a cozy escape or a haven of tranquility. Our channel is dedicated to guiding you into a restful night's sleep. Find a quiet and serene space where you can unwind from the busyness of the day. Dim the lights and silence any distractions. Create an atmosphere of peace where your mind can gently settle into a state of relaxation. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Feel the air filling your lungs, and as you exhale, let go of any tension or worries. Focus solely on your breath, letting it be your anchor to the present moment. Start from your toes and work your way up, consciously releasing any tension in your body. Imagine each breath melting away any tightness or discomfort, leaving you feeling lighter and more at ease. Embrace the stillness within you. Allow your mind to settle like ripples on a calm lake. Be fully present in this moment, letting go of any thoughts about the past or the future. Let's begin the story now. Sleepy Folks, Enchanted Dreams, Cinderella's Tale. Welcome to Sleepy Folks, where dreams weave their magic and carry you to enchanting realms. In tonight's episode, we delve into the classic fairy tale of Cinderella, a timeless story of hope, kindness, and the belief in dreams. So, settle in. Close your eyes and allow the captivating tale of Cinderella to unfold over the next 2 hours. In a realm cloaked in the hush of night and adorned with twinkling stars, lived a gentle spirit named Cinderella. Her days were woven with threads of quietude, and her nights were painted with dreams that danced among the constellation. Cinderella's life unfolded in a cozy cottage nestled on the edge of a tranquil forest. However, her world was not as serene as her surrounding. She bore the weight of countless chores, her days drenched in the endless drudgery of sweeping, scrubbing, and tending to every task her stepmother and stepsisters deemed fit to delegate. Cinderella's days were filled with endless chores and responsibilities, yet she always managed to find solace in the company of small woodland creatures and the songs of the birds outside her window. Her stepmother, a woman of stern countenance, and her stepsisters, whose hearts seemed to mirror their mothers', made sure Cinderella's life was one of servitude. They commanded her with harsh words, their demands echoing like persistent gusts. Yet, despite their treatment, Cinderella remained resilient, her spirit unwavering. Amidst her daily trials, Cinderella's solace lay in the open fields that stretched behind the cottage. There she cared for the cattle, the horses, and the hens with a tenderness that mirrored the moon's caress on the water. She believed that even in the humblest of lives, a melody of love and grace could be woven. Her mornings were greeted by the melodic greetings of the birds, and she would tend to the animals, feeding them and offering words of comfort, as if they understood the language of her heart. The gentle nuzzle of a horse and the contented clucking of hens were the companionship she cherished. In the evenings, when the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Cinderella's chores continued. Yet there was a magical quality to her surroundings. The forest whispered secrets of dreams, and the stars seemed to wink in understanding. As she gazed upon the moon's silvery radiance, she imagined that her dreams were whispered to it, carried on the night's breath, to places unknown. Cinderella's existence might have seemed mundane to an observer, but her heart held dreams as vast as the night sky. She yearned for a life beyond her chores, where kindness and love were not luxuries, but everyday currencies. One fateful day, an invitation to the royal ball arrived, and for the first time, Cinderella's heart quickened with anticipation. Yet her stepmother and stepsisters ensured that her excitement was met with mockery. The prospect of attending the ball was dismissed as laughable, and Cinderella's dreams, which had fluttered so near, seemed to recede like stars behind thick clouds. But even as her stepmother's words sought to dim her light, Cinderella found solace beneath the moon's gentle gaze. Every night she tended to her animals, embracing that brought her comfort, and as the moon waxed and waned, so did her dreams, like tides that held the promise of something more. As the days passed, news of the grand royal ball spread like wildfire throughout the kingdom. The entire realm buzzed with excitement, for it was an event like no other. The castle, situated atop a hill, stood as a majestic vision of regality and elegance, beckoning all to partake in the forthcoming celebration. In preparation for the ball, Cinderella's wicked stepmother and stepsisters busied themselves with dress fittings, selecting opulent gowns adorned with precious jewels and ornate embroidery. However, for Cinderella there seemed to be no hope of attending the ball. Her stepmother treated her with cruel disdain, ensuring she remained unnoticed and excluded from any glimmer of joy. Despite the injustice she faced, Cinderella clung to the words of her late mother, who had taught her to believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of dream. Unbeknownst to Cinderella, her fate was about to be rewritten, for her fairy godmother, with a heart brimming with compassion, decided to intervene. With a wave of her wand, the fairy godmother transformed Cinderella's tattered clothes into a breathtaking gown made of the finest silk, cascading like a waterfall of stardust. The gown shimmered with every step, as if the stars themselves were adorning her for the ball. To complete the magical ensemble, the fairy godmother gifted Cinderella with delicate glass slippers that sparkled like diamonds. Their radiance mirrored the light of the moon, illuminating her path to the ball. A pumpkin from the garden was transformed into a magnificent carriage, drawn by a team of mice, transformed into elegant horses. With the wave of her wand, the fairy godmother conjured a coachman and footman to escort Cinderella to the royal ball. As Cinderella's coach approached the grand castle, her heart raced with anticipation. The palace stood like a gleaming jewel, adorned with gold-trimmed archways and adorned with colourful banners heralding the celebration. Entering the palace, Cinderella was greeted by the grandeur of the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers bathed the room in a warm glow, and mirrors reflected the elegance of every guest in attendance. The ballroom was alive with laughter, music, and the joyful voices of guests from all corners of the kingdom, as the orchestra played a waltz. Couples swirled and twirled on the polished marble floor, creating an enchanting spectacle. Cinderella's beauty took on a new radiance. With the help of her fairy companions, her humble attire transformed into a gown that shimmered like stardust. Pearls adorned her hair, twinkling like stars, and her eyes held a quiet anticipation, a reflection of the dreams that had woven their way into her heart. As she entered the ballroom, a hush fell upon the guests. The grandeur of the palace seemed to pale in comparison to the luminosity that accompanied her every step. Whispers of admiration swept through the crowd like a gentle breeze, and even the stars seemed to pause in the sky, as if in awe of the beauty that had graced the ballroom. Among the crowd stood the prince, a figure of regal grace. As their gazes met, a connection sparked, an invisible thread that seemed to draw them together despite the sea of people between them. Cinderella's heart fluttered like the wings of a delicate butterfly, her breath quickening with a mixture of anticipation and wonder. With each step, she moved towards him, the music's melody guiding her like the soft murmur of the night wind. Her heartbeats seemed to echo in time with the music, creating a rhythm that mirrored the symphony of her emotions. As they stood face to face, her heart seemed to skip a beat, the intensity of their connection like a flame flickering to life. His eyes held a depth that seemed to reach into the very core of her being. The prince, who had attended many grand affairs, found himself captivated by the sight of Cinderella. His gaze was drawn to her like a moth to a flame, and as their eyes met, a connection that transcended the pomp and grandeur of the ball. As he approached her, his heart quickened in a way he had never experienced before. Her beauty was not just in her appearance, but in the grace with which she moved, the kindness that emanated from her every gesture, and the depth of her eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of the universe. When he extended his hand, it was a gesture that transcended the grandeur of the ball. His touch found hers with a gentleness that mirrored the moon's caress upon the water, and as they swayed to the music, her hand in his, the world around them seemed to blur into insignificance. In that moment, the ballroom became a world of its own, a realm where their souls danced as gracefully as their bodies. Her heartbeat synchronized with his, a rhythm that seemed to echo the very essence of the night itself. But as the clock struck midnight, Cinderella knew her time at the ball was fleeting. With the memory of her mother's words in her heart, she bid a hasty farewell to the prince and the magnificent ballroom, leaving behind one of her glass slippers in her haste. Back in her cottage, she held onto the memory of the dance, her heart illuminated by the glow of the moon, and as the nights passed, her beauty continued to shine, not just in the reflection in the mirror, but in the luminosity of her dreams and the kindness that she shared with every living creature she encountered. The morning sun rose over the palace, casting its golden light upon the grand corridors and opulent chambers, but within the prince's heart a shadow of desperation had taken root. The memory of the mysterious maiden he had danced with at the ball consumed his thoughts, like a relentless fire. With each passing moment, the image of her radiant presence danced before his eyes, a vision of grace and beauty that had left an indelible mark upon his soul. Her eyes, like pools of infinite depth, seemed to beckon him from a world beyond his reach, and her touch lingered in his memory like the faintest whisper of a melody. His steps were restless as he paced through the palace, his heart driven by an urgent need to find her once more. The guests at the ball had only glimpsed her beauty, but to him she was more than a fleeting vision. She was the embodiment of the magic that had momentarily turned the world into a realm of dreams. He questioned the servants, he inquired of the guests, and he sought out any trace of the mysterious maiden who had captured his heart. His desperation was palpable, a hunger that could not be quenched by the riches and comforts that surrounded him. Yet, as the sun climbed higher in the sky, there was no trace of her to be found. The palace's corridors echoed with his footsteps, a sound that seemed to mirror the restlessness of his heart. He knew that the enchantment that had drawn them together could not be confined to a single night, and he was determined to find her, to see the sparkle of recognition in her eyes once more. The palace, once a place of grandeur, now felt like a prison of uncertainty. The prince's noble bearing belied the desperation that churned within him. He yearned to hold her once more, to feel the gentle brush of her fingers against his skin, and to gaze into the depths of her eyes that held secrets he longed to unravel. The day seemed to stretch on, each hour feeling like an eternity as he scoured the palace and its surroundings, driven by an unyielding desire to find her. The sun's descent toward the horizon mirrored the descent of hope within him. And yet, as the shadows of evening began to lengthen, a glimmer of possibility flickered in the distance. A shoe, a delicate, glimmering slipper, had been found, left behind in her hurried departure. It was a sign, a beacon of hope that pierced through the fog of desperation. With renewed determination, the prince held the slipper in his hands, his fingers tracing the delicate curves, as if seeking a connection to the one who had captured his heart. He knew that this shoe held the key to finding her, to rekindling enchantment that had waltzed between them. The next day, word spread throughout the kingdom of the mysterious maiden who had captivated the prince. Determined to find her, the prince declared that he would marry the one whose foot fit the glass slipper left behind. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters, desperate to win the prince's heart, tried to force their feet into the tiny slipper, but it was clear that the slipper belonged to someone else. As fate would have it, the prince arrived at Cinderella's humble dwelling. Despite her stepmother's attempts to keep her hidden, Cinderella was finally brought before the prince. With a sense of destiny, Cinderella slipped her foot into the glass slipper, and it fit perfectly. There she stood, Cinderella, the mysterious maiden who had danced her way into his soul, but her appearance was not that of a grand lady from the ball. Instead, she wore the attire of a servant, her hands bearing the marks of toil and hardship. Her eyes, however, were a mirror to her soul, a soul that had weathered storms yet retained its grace. As their gazes met, a current of recognition surged between them, a connection that bridged the passage of time and circumstances. The prince's heart swelled with a mixture of emotions, compassion, admiration, and an overwhelming surge of love that defied the boundaries of social status. He saw beyond the surface, beyond the disguise that life had draped upon her. He saw the spirit that had danced in his arms, the heart that had connected with his own. Every moment of searching, every step that had led him to this point, culminated in this profound revelation. He recognized that his heart's desire was not bound by the trappings of royalty, but rather by the authenticity of connection and the bonds of love. As they stood before each other, the prince's fingers gently lifted her chin, his touch an affirmation of the emotions that coursed through him. He saw her, truly saw her, and in that moment the walls that society had erected seemed to crumble into dust. His words were a whisper, a confession that echoed like a melody in the quiet of the evening. He spoke of the memories they had woven together, of the dreams that had danced between them, and of the unyielding love that had blossomed in the shadows. And as their hands found each other's, the past and present converged. The prince's heart swelled with a love that transcended time, a love that saw Cinderella for who she was, a kindred spirit who had illuminated his life with her grace. Cinderella was whisked away to the royal palace, where she married the prince, and they lived happily ever after. Her kindness, grace, and unwavering belief in dreams had led her to her own enchanting happily ever after. But the story doesn't end there. Cinderella's benevolence extended to her stepmother and stepsisters, and she forgave them for their past unkindness. In the spirit of love and compassion, she invited them to the palace where they too found a new beginning. And so the kingdom rejoiced as Cinderella's tale became a legend, reminding everyone that goodness and kindness could conquer even the darkest of time. As the story of Cinderella reaches its heartwarming conclusion, allow yourself to drift into a realm of dreams where magic and love unite to create a world of possibilities. In the kingdom of sleepy folks, where dreams are born, may your heart find peace, and may your dreams be filled with hope and the belief that dreams can come true. Thank you for joining us on this. Welcome, dear listeners, to another tranquil episode of Sleepy Folks. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the enchanting world of a prince who fell in love with the angel of the forest. As you settle into a peaceful space, let the soft melodies and gentle narration guide you into a slumber filled with magic. In a kingdom where kings and queens ruled with grace, lived a prince named Alenxander. He was a young man of noble birth, with a spirit as untamed as the wind that whispered through the palace garden. Yet, in the depths of his heart, there was a desire that clashed with the expectations placed upon him. Prince Alexander's parents, the king and queen, had long been searching for a suitable match to be his bride. They paraded princesses from distant lands, each adorned with jewels and grace before him. Yet Alexander's heart remained untouched by their charms. He longed for a love that was born from genuine connection, not political alliances. One day, weary of the grandeur and formalities of palace life, Prince Alexander ventured into the sprawling woods that surrounded the kingdom. With a bow and arrow in hand, he set out to hunt, hoping that the solitude of the forest would provide him with a respite from his duties. As the sun cast dappled shadows through the trees, Alexander's steps carried him deeper into the woods. Lost in his thoughts, he wandered far from the well-trodden paths, his heart a tumultuous sea of longing and uncertainty. The forest's embrace grew denser, and soon Alexander found himself in a place he had never been before. The beauty of the untouched wilderness awed him, a symphony of rustling leaves, chirping birds, and the gentle murmur of a hidden stream Following the melody of the stream, Alexander stumbled upon a hidden waterfall, its crystal waters cascading into a tranquil pool. The sight was so breathtaking that it stole his breath away. He had never witnessed such natural beauty, and in that moment the weight of his responsibilities seemed to fade into insignificance. And there, amidst the shimmering waters of the fall, he saw her, the girl whose beauty rivaled the very essence of the forest. Her skin glowed with the radiance of the sun. She swam with a grace that mirrored the gentle ripples on the water's surface, a creature of the woods whose beauty was as enchanting as the whisper of the wind. Alexander watched in awe, his heart beating in time with the rhythm of the waterfall. He was drawn to her, captivated by her presence, as if an invisible thread linked their souls. His gaze traced her every movement, his heart hammering like the wings of a startled bird. Her eyes were the colour of the forest itself, deep and mysterious, like pools of hidden wisdom. They held secrets untold, and Alexander found himself captivated by their depths. They seemed to hold the stories of the trees, the whispered secrets of the leaves, and the dreams of creatures that roamed the woods. She moved with a grace that mirrored the gentle ripples of the waterfall, her movement a dance with nature, her laughter like the sweetest bird's song echoed in the air. Her presence was a symphony of beauty and grace, a testament to the magic that dwelled within the woods. As Alexander watched, his heart seemed to beat in time with the rhythm of the waterfall. He was spellbound, unable to tear his gaze away from the breathtaking scene before him. Her every movement was poetry, and he found himself entranced by the ethereal dance she performed in the water. Time seemed to stand still as he watched her swim, the water's embrace, the sunlight's caress, and the forest's whispered secrets, creating an aura of enchantment. He had never witnessed such natural beauty, and it filled him with a sense of awe that transcended words. In that moment, the weight of his responsibilities, the pressures of royal expectations, all faded into insignificance. The only reality that mattered was the girl before him, a manifestation of the wilderness's grace and allure. He was drawn to her like a moth to a flame. His breath caught in his throat, his heart beat a tumultuous rhythm that echoed the cascade's song. He felt as if he had stumbled upon a secret, a hidden gem nestled within the heart of the forest, and as he continued to gaze at her, he realized that her beauty was not merely physical. It was a reflection of the magic that dwelled within her, a mirror to the enchantment of the woods. As he watched her, a soft smile curved his lips, a smile that spoke of wonder, appreciation, and a deep reverence for the natural world. It was a smile that captured the essence of that moment, an encounter with beauty so pure and untamed that it seemed to belong to another world entirely. As he stepped closer, his foot caught on an uneven rock, and with a splash he stumbled into the water. The shock of the cold water jolted him, and he surfaced, sputtering and embarrassed. But the beauty before him had noticed his presence, and her eyes widened in surprise. She started to retreat, her movements mirroring the flight of a startled deer. Fear danced in her eyes, like the flicker of a fragile flame. Yet, as she turned to leave, Alexander's hand shot out instinctively, his fingers wrapping around hers with a determination born of destiny. Their eyes met, an unspoken recognition that transcended the barriers of language and circumstance. In those shared seconds, they were two souls united by the magic of the woods, two hearts that beat in time with the pulse of the earth. He held her gaze, his grip gentle yet unwavering, his touch as reassuring as the forest's embrace. There, amidst the splendor of the hidden waterfall, two strangers became something more. Their gazes held stories yet to be spoken, dreams yet to be revealed. The girl's awareness shifted, her senses attuned to the new presence in her sanctuary. Her movements paused, and she turned, her eyes meeting Alexander's with a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. His touch had stirred something within her, a sensation that radiated from the point of contact like ripples in a pond. It was as if his touch had sent tremors through the water, echoing through her very being. Her heart raced, a fluttering dance that seemed to match the rhythm of the forest around them. The girl's eyes, usually so deep and mysterious, betrayed a flicker of vulnerability. She stood amidst the waters, her hand suspended in mid-air as if caught in a moment of suspended time. Alexander's touch had resonated with something within her, awakening emotions she had long kept concealed. A delicate blush adorned her cheeks, an ephemeral echo of the connection they had shared in that fleeting touch. Yet, as quickly as the blush had appeared, the girl sought to mask her vulnerability. Her defenses rose like a protective barrier, her gaze becoming guarded as she retreated, her movements mirroring the flight of a startled deer. Fear danced in her eyes like the flicker of a fragile flame, as if she had been caught in a moment of vulnerability she had never intended to reveal. She started to turn away, her movements a reflection of her instinct to flee from this intrusion upon her solitude. With an urgency born of both instinct and the desire to connect, Alexander's hand shot out, his fingers wrapping around hers with a determination that mirrored the strength of the forest itself. His touch was gentle, a reassurance that transcended words, as if he understood the unspoken language of her heart. Her gaze flickered between his eyes and his hand, a silent struggle between her instincts to flee and the magnetic pull of his touch. Her fingers trembled within his grasp, her emotions swirling like leaves caught in a sudden gust of wind. In that suspended moment, as their gazes locked and their hands held a silent conversation, the tension in the air began to ease. Alexander's touch was a lifeline, a connection that seemed to bridge the gap between their worlds. He held her gaze, his eyes speaking of understanding, of a recognition that transcended words. As her vulnerability collided with his empathy, a tentative smile curved her lips, the first fragile blossom of a connection that had taken root between them. Her fear began to recede, replaced by curiosity, a curiosity that seemed to have a magnetic pull all its own. The sunlit waterfall stood witness to a moment of connection, a moment that held the promise of stories yet untold. Prince Alexander's fingers held the girl's hand, a gesture that bridged the divide between their worlds. His eyes spoke of understanding, his touch the reassurance that extended beyond words. Gently, Alexander's lips parted, his voice a soft whisper that carried his introduction through the air. "I am Prince Alexander," he said, his tone carrying a warmth that matched the sunlight filtering through the trees. His name, usually laden with regal weight, seemed to hold a different significance in this enchanting realm. The girl's gaze met his, and in her eyes he glimpsed a mixture of curiosity and caution. Her lips curved into a smile that was mirrored in his own, a silent affirmation that they were no longer strangers in this secret haven. As they exchanged words, a realization dawned upon Alexander, a realization that transcended the surface. The girl before him was not just a mere wanderer of the woods. She was the guardian of this enchanted realm, a part of the very essence of the forest itself. In a realm where enchantment was reality, she had been entrusted with a sacred duty to protect and nurture the beauty that surrounded them. The realization deepened the connection that had already begun to bloom between them. With a gentle smile, the girl began to lead Alenxander away from the waterfall, her steps confident, as if she navigated the paths of the woods with a familiarity that spoke of a deep bond. Their journey took them to a place that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly aura, a place that held secrets and stories within its walls. Hidden amidst the trees was a cave, a sanctuary that felt as cozy and homely as the embrace of a loved one. Its entrance was adorned with ivy and delicate blooms, a natural tapestry that seemed to invite them in. Inside the cave, the light of the setting sun filtered through the entrance, casting a warm and inviting glow. The walls seemed to breathe, alive with the energy of the woods that surrounded them, a gentle murmur, the song of the forest, seeped through the stone walls, creating a symphony of nature's melodies. In the heart of the cave, a soft carpet of moss seemed to invite them to sit. The girl gestured for Alenxander to make himself comfortable, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of mischief and warmth, and as he settled onto the mossy floor, he felt a sense of belonging, a sense that this place, with its earthy aroma and gentle ambience, was meant to be shared. Fireflies danced around the cave, their gentle illumination creating a magical ambience that seemed to transcend reality. They fluttered like living stars, casting a soft golden light that highlighted the cave's natural beauty. The cave's walls were adorned with delicate vines and crystals that glimmered like precious jewels. Their glow mingled with the firefly's light, creating an otherworldly symphony of illumination. The atmosphere was one of enchantment, a realm where reality and fantasy coexisted in perfect harmony. As the girl spoke, her voice carried the wisdom of the woods, the soft cadence of a life lived in rhythm with nature. Her words painted pictures of secret clearings, hidden streams, and the delicate dance between the forest's inhabitants. And as Alenxander listened, he felt as if he were being initiated into a world that had always existed, hidden from his gaze until this moment. In her presence, Alenxander felt a sense of wonder, a wonder that mirrored the awe he felt in the presence of the woods themselves. It was as if she was an extension of the forest's magic, a living embodiment of the enchantment that surrounded them. In the heart of the enchanted forest, where the fireflies painted constellations in the night sky, Prince Alenxander and the angel of the forest found themselves drawn together in a dance that echoed the rhythms of nature itself. As the night deepened, the crickets serenaded them with a symphony of trills and chirps. The air was alive with the melodies of the night, a harmonious composition that seemed to resonate with the very beats of their hearts. Hand in hand, they swayed to the invisible cadence of the woods, their steps guided by the magic that enveloped them. Their dance was not one of choreography, but of pure instinct, a dance that was woven from the essence of their souls. With each movement, they became conduits of the forest's energy, as if the very trees and stars were watching and applauding their connection. As their laughter mingled with the night's melodies, the boundaries between prince and angel of the forest faded into insignificance. Their laughter was the echo of a shared moment, a testament to the unspoken understanding that united them. In the shelter of the forest's embrace, they were free to be themselves, unburdened by titles and expectations. For Prince Alenxander, the dance was a revelation, an experience that opened his eyes to the richness of life beyond the castle walls. It was a dance that whispered of freedom and authenticity, an affirmation that his heart's desires were more profound than the alliances forged by kingdoms. The angel of the forest, too, felt a sense of wonder, a wonder that mirrored the starlit sky above. With each step, she felt her heart flutter like the wings of a bird taking flight. The dance was a silent conversation, a dialogue that spoke of shared dreams and a connection that transcended the boundaries of words. As the dance reached its crescendo, the forest itself seemed to hold its breath, an audience to a moment that was both intimate and sacred. And when the dance finally slowed, when the cricket's melody faded into the breeze, they found themselves standing in the embrace of the woods, their gazes locked, their hearts speaking a language only they could understand. The night wore on, and eventually the stars began to dim as the first light of dawn kissed the horizon. Prince Alenxander's eyelids fluttered open, the memories of the enchanted night weaving through his consciousness like a tapestry of dreams. But as he turned to his side, his heart sank. The angel of the forest was nowhere to be found. Only his loyal horse stood nearby, a silent witness to the night's enchantment. Prince Alenxander's heart ached, an ache that mirrored the absence of the angel who had become a beacon of light in his life. He had been captivated by her presence, drawn to her like a moth to a flame, and now the flame had flickered. With a heavy heart, he mounted his horse and rode back to the castle, a journey that felt longer than any he had ever undertaken. As he entered the palace, his parents' concerned gazes met his, and he knew that he had a story to tell, a story that held a truth more profound than any political alliance. With a determined gaze, Prince Alenxander recounted the tale of the beautiful girl he had met in the woods. A tale that was not just about beauty, but about connection and understanding. He spoke of the dance beneath the starlit sky, of the unspoken language of their hearts, and of the promise he had made to himself. To his parents' astonishment, he declared that he would never marry another. His heart belonged to the angel of the forest. His words held a resolve that matched the strength of the forest itself, a resolve that defied tradition and duty in favor of the authenticity of love. And so, with a heavy heart, he returned to the forest, the place where their connection had been forged, the woods that had once felt like an enchanting realm now echoed with the hollowness of his footsteps. Day after day he wandered, his heart heavy with the weight of uncertainty. He questioned the creatures of the woods. He searched the hidden groves and secret clearings, but the angel of the forest remained elusive, a shimmering vision that seemed to have vanished with the night's magic. Then, as the days turned into nights and the seasons cycled through their rhythms, the forest's heartbeat seemed to lead him once more, guided by the gentle whispers of the wind and the rustling leaves. He found himself standing at the very spot where they had first met, the place where destiny had woven their fates together. And there she was, the angel of the forest, the girl who had ignited his heart with a flame that had never truly extinguished. Her presence was a gift, a testament to the magic that still lived within the forest and within their hearts. Under the starry sky that had witnessed their first dance, they stood together, a prince and an angel, two souls united by a connection that defied the boundaries of kingdoms and titles. The creatures of the woods seemed to gather around them, a congregation of silent witnesses, their presence a blessing upon the union that was about to take place. As they exchanged their vows amidst the forest's symphony, the stars twinkled above, their light a testament to the love that had transcended time and space. It was a union blessed by the woods themselves, a union that as natural and inevitable as the sun rising at dawn. And so, dear listeners, as the stars continue to shimmer above, and the forest's song weaves its melodies, we leave Prince Alenxander and the angel of the forest in each other's arms, a love story that bloomed beneath the starlit sky and amidst the enchantment of the forest. May your own dreams be graced by such enduring connections, and may your slumber be as peaceful as the woods' whispered secrets.